Everyone loves real estate stories, but not everyone knows how wild and crazy it can be. Want to know what actually goes down when trying to close a deal? You're in luck, because you're listening to Real Estate Real Laughs, hosted by Valerie Fitzgerald and Bob Hurwitz. Get a good dose of stories and laughter from industry experts who have seen and done it all. Get behind the scenes and be privy to the high-end luxury market. Enjoy refreshing takes from fellow industry insiders and celebrities. Tune in and get a front row ticket to the unseen and hilarious side of real estate with Valerie Fitzgerald and Bob Hurwitz.
Welcome, everyone, to today's Real Estate Real Laughs. I'm Valerie Fitzgerald.
And I'm Bob Hurwitz.
And we're really thrilled that you do tune in all over the world every week to listen to one of our great podcasts. Bob and I try to have some great, very interesting people and stories, and we have some fun doing it.
Yeah, totally. And right here, I'm with something I give to a lot of my clients. It's a fly gun. I've had a fly in my office, and I've been sitting there trying to nail it. I give this to a lot of my clients, and it shoots salt out and kills the fly without splattering it. So.
Oh my God.
That's pretty cool.
That's bizarre. You talk about what's it called? Killing, what do they say? Killing, swatting an elephant with a fly swatter or whatever. I don't know.
I hadn't heard that, but one time I was selling actually a listing of mine that you showed for 30.
Yeah.
I went there to show the property once, and the owner was running around the house with a fly gun, chasing a fly. I go, dude, you got to get out. I got to show him. So anyway,
there's so many crazy strange. That's the fun thing about this podcast, is that there's so many funny, crazy, and we're boots on the ground. I mean, these things really happen. The experiences that we have, the calls that we have, the crazy stories that we hear, we experience, and that's what's fun about this, is to share them with people that never would possibly understand what happens in our world behind the curtain, day in and day out.
That's exactly right. I'm constantly telling people that ask me about something on some TV show, and I go, that's fake. Here's the real stuff. And again, because our podcast, a lot of people, our clients and our friends and stuff, listen to it, as well as just the general public. People will hit me up, my clients and stuff. A lot of them celebrities, hey, you got to tell the story about so-and-so. And I go, I can't do that one. So it is pretty amazing. And sometimes I'll just be sitting there thinking, okay, so Valerie and I are going to be talking, and I'll think back and I go, oh my God, that might be an interesting thing, So it's when you've been doing it as long as we have, and dealing, with the type of people that we have.
Exactly. Well, I don't know. I've been spending a lot of my days, I'm sure a lot of our listeners around the world that obviously are listening and interested about real estate. And the markets, given what's going on in the crazy world right now, and interest rates are starting to move, the inventory is still so unbelievably tight. It's like a quarter of what it was even a year ago, which was low even then. And it's wild. I mean, I think I spend a couple hours, 2-3 hours a day just calling people looking for pockets. And the rest of my time is trying to get sellers to take a crazy offer, right? Like an offer you kind of go, oh my God, I can't believe we've got this offer. And you're just not even caring about it. Right.
Yes.
Do you experience the same thing?
100%. I'm experiencing that right now, actually. I won't go into details, but it's the same type of situation. And it is kind of bizarre because everybody's waiting for the bottom to drop or whatever. Ever since COVID hit, the whole thing has been kind of bizarre, and now it's cleared. And now, like you said, on the high end, I mean, there's limited inventory, and on the, a lot of my agents work in the $1.5 million to $3 million range. It's like 20, 25 offers with no contingencies, all cash.
Yeah.
My
last 4 have had not less than 20 offers, and the biggest one was 34 offers. And one went $1.7 million over the asking, the other one went $2 million. And we're talking about $3.5 million price range. Those houses, those fixers, are going at $5.5 million. Now, there's something really crazy about that.
There's a lot of people with money.
There's a lot of money. There's a lot of money out there. And the days of can I have a look? Can I do inspections? Can I have a contingency? I want to get a loan, are gone. You cannot have any of those contingencies anymore.
And that makes it really difficult for people that aren't really experienced buyers that, want the protection of what am I really buying? Because you and I both know, just because something looks great on the surface, there could be all kinds of problems that could be major, and these people don't have a chance to really inspect. So that's problematic for sure.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. So now that we have open houses back, there's some funny stories and things that happen. I think I told you one time that I had this, it wasn't an open house, it was another showing. And I had this young guy, and it was up in the Bird Streets, right next to the Bird Streets. And he was actually kind of square, but the listing agent didn't know that. The listing agent thought he's looking in the Bird Streets and he's single. He must be like Mr. Uber cool.
Right.
So when we got there, he had 4 girls in these skimpy little bikinis, and one girl had little things over her boobs, little pasty things. Yeah. And they're strutting around the pool, lounging on the side of the pool, pretending like they didn't notice we were there. Like this would be their afternoon by the pool.
This was a Sunday open?
No, this was a private showing, a second private showing. Oh, wow. And I think the listing agent, who was also a single guy, which, thought that he was going to be super cool and pull out all the stops
right.
to get my guy really like excited and focused that this is the life he would have if he owned this house, But this guy wasn't like that. This guy wasn't the type, and he was like looking this way, like it's like an assault. He kept looking around. I kept going, well, let's go this way over here. The view's really nice this way. So
yeah, that's, it's interesting because you never really know what someone's mindset is and how it could affect potentially making or breaking a deal. You just assume that maybe somebody will find this music interesting or this, like what you're talking about, that vibe good, and it may turn somebody totally off. So it's to my mind, it's always about being as neutral as possible,
right.
Whether it be the seller or whatever. Even on political things like paintings and stuff, I've had people, hey, you should take that down because, I may dig it and you dig it, but the person coming in, it may cost you a big sale. So,
yeah.
I mean, as far as open houses, it's funny because, I don't think you and I actually hold Sunday opens anymore. Although if someone wants an open, I'm happy to have, a couple of my agents there because I think people should be walked through. So, and qualify people at the door. But it's funny because one of my actually really good friends now is, I met him at an open house at a property in Malibu, and me and this client of mine from the East Coast who just sold his company for 50 million. We went in there and the guy was swimming nude in the pool. His assistant was like in the main house. It was like the most hilarious thing of all time. And my client was like laughing, but ultimately the agent and I, we ended up doing, we bought houses together. We're really good friends, but it was just hilarious. He's so off the wall that why would you be swimming nude, taking a break in an open house?
It's bizarre. I mean, I guess he was hot and had to put his clothes back on or something. But yeah, no, they see the craziest things. I mean, I've seen people's animals in the pool. I'm like, you got to get the dog out of the pool. Like
animals in a pool. Let me tell you this: the house I was selling up in Bradbury, there was bears in the pond because it was an $8.5 million trout pond. The guy fly fish out of, which him, and bears would be in the pond catching fish. And they used to have the assistant had a shotgun that would shoot like beanbags just to get rid of them for a showing. One time I was driving my convertible 550 SL, and I was driving through this gated community, and all of a sudden pops out of the bushes right. Running alongside me is a bear. It scared the hell out of me because I got the top down. It was like, boom, I was like gone. But yeah, we see some weird stuff for sure.
I know. I was showing a house about a month ago, and it's in a gated community here, and could never get into the guest house. It was a really nice guest house and a beautiful house. Right. And so I kept going to the guest house. Finally, I got into the guest house because I went around. It was like a 2-story guest house.
Right.
I went in below and thought, maybe the door was just locked. And I found the door unlocked. So I go in there and I found out why I could never get into the guest house. I think this was the girlfriend that was there living in the guest house as a renter.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I know someone that has a situation right now in Beverly Hills, actually.
Yeah.
The girlfriend's in the guest house. But was the husband and wife both in the main house?
Yeah, living in the main house.
Wow, that's interesting. and 4 forward thinking.
You're very forward
It's
thinking.
weird. You know, hopefully I haven't said this on a previous podcast. One of the things that it's kind of interesting because dealing with a lot of overseas buyers like we do, you know, they have a different kind of way that often they do things. And I'll never forget, I was showing this one property, and it was a $70 million property, and this person was introduced as being related to the president of China. And you know, a lot of foreign buyers, they don't really have verification of funds or whatever, and you can tell,
Credit. Yeah.
you know, that if the agent knows them or whatever, then that's cool. And but this person wanted to show verification of funds after we were already almost through the house. And I said, well, I could see she was real, you know, but she insisted on showing verification of funds. And so on her phone, her translator assistant or whatever pulled up this account, which had like 180 million in it, which was enough to buy the house, obviously. I go, oh, that's fine. And she was all upset because that was the account that was shown. She goes, no. And she scrolled through the phone and pulled up an account with 5 billion plus in an account in Hong Kong. And me and the other agent looked at each other, and he goes, is that dollars? And she goes, yeah. She started laughing. So it's really bizarre. Like, most people don't ever interact with people like that, you know, generally in the business, but it is kind of mind numbing, you know, how much money some people really have, you know.
Yeah, it's surprising. I mean, there was a recent Chinese buyer who had reached out to me and had, you know, and I'd said, well, I need some verification of funds. You know, it was a $5 million sale.
Right.
And he sent me this Bitcoin account.
Right.
But it was a Bitcoin. So I was like, I had to like look up Bitcoin and figure out what the, you know, what the play was on how much money it really was in the account, and
Right.
you know, that kind of stuff. So I thought that was unique.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot more of that type of
Yeah.
situation for sure with the cryptocurrency. And you know, it's a bunch of money they have now may not be so much money then, or it could skyrocket too. I mean, there's a bunch of young people that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars from cryptocurrency.
Yes,
They got in
right.
it like early on and way ahead of us we ever heard of it. I mean,
Right.
I know one 25-year-old guy, at least worth 200 million, lives in New York, all off Bitcoin. Never really worked anything. I think he was a box boy or something, you know.
Yeah, therefore the wealth. There's so many different sources of wealth that we're seeing. It used to be you could predict it. Oh, if the stock market's doing well, then that's what's driving the market, or the
Right,
entertainment business. Do you ever hear anyone say anymore, oh yeah, they're the head of a studio? No,
No,
you're
that means you're
right.
broke compared to what other. You know what's funny is, and I'm curious, I want to ask you this because you're dealing with a lot of the multiple offer situations. So how are they presenting all the, when there's got 20 or 30 offers on something, how are they presenting?
Well, I think what they do is they drop the lowest ones. So they don't even counter them. I
But
think.
how are you actually presenting? I mean, are you just all just sending it in?
Oh, you have to send it in. You can't present. You
Hmm.
can only send it in. Yeah, you can only send it in. And usually I write a little letter, you know, so they'll know something about the buyer
Right.
too, but to hopefully like stand out a little bit. But
Yeah.
no, it's brutal. It's really brutal. It's brutal.
You know, it's interesting. I remember once I presented an offer with most offers I've ever seen on something, and it was over when John Douglas was around and had his office, and there was like 36 offers on this property. It was in Santa Monica, and we presented in person actually, but one after the other in the conference room, and they ended up going with my client. And it was funny because, but I changed when I'm doing a multiple offer, I'd always put in something that I figured somebody else wouldn't, you know, besides going up in price, but, you know, they'll pay for the escrow. There's something, you know, just to make it stand out a little bit. And ultimately, they went with my guy because I was like CEO of the company and I represent all these that my guy was solid. But it turned out he had bankruptcies and stuff. He couldn't qualify and the deal blew. And that property, Valerie, did not sell for another year. And I find that's a phenomenon. I wonder if you agree with this or you have a different take. But a lot of times when there's multiple offers, the person who gets the property blows up because they realize that, hey, or they recognize I paid this much because I was bidding against someone. It's not really worth it when I actually, you know, analyze it objectively, and then they'll blow. And the next person goes, oh, wait a minute. What happened to that person? So I don't know, maybe it's different now with all of these, but they're going so high over asking, but are you seeing that phenomenon?
So with the last 6 offers I've made, we didn't make any of them. One of them, the first guy blew out. They told us, they said, we're not countering you because we have over the asking, we have blah, 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 blah. And it's all cash and it's a 20-day close. And I said, well, we can't compete with that. Okay. So then he said, but we have a backup that is more than yours and is, and we were 30 days with a loan, but it wasn't a contingency. And so I said, well, and he goes, so both of those blew out. So then then we tried to come back and we still didn't get the property. But then I had another one up here in Beverly Hills on Coldwater, and same thing happened. They had 12 offers. We
On
ended up
Coldwater?
on Coldwater. Yeah, is that
Yikes.
amazing? Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And the house was no bueno. And all these houses are fixers I'm talking about. These are all fixers at 3.5 million. They're fixers, and they're going way over the asking price, like $1 million or more over the asking price.
Wow.
So we got it because we were fools and went over the asking price by $1.2 million.
Jeez.
Yeah. But the house is in such bad shape that we ended up canceling. And I think they had someone in back of us, but that was crazy. And then I had 3 others back to back with another buyer, and we lost all 3 of those too. So
That's unreal. So this is a phenomenon that started, I don't know, must have been like 3-4 years ago. It used to be someone counters you, even in a multiple counter situation. If it's a multiple counter, it's a multiple counter, it's got to be re-signed by the seller. Okay. Right. But they'd at least counter you with a number. And then they came up with this
best and final,
where you're negotiating against yourself.
Right. You have to guess.
Yeah, which I hate.
Yeah. Everybody hates it. You have to guess what price. You have to guess.
Yeah, it's like absurd and unprofessional, I think. But anyway, it's sort of what happens now a lot on these deals.
Yeah, you have to guess.
How are you telling your person where the house is 3.5 and you're saying, what are you saying? Write 5? I mean, how does that work?
No, I mean, we always write the asking, or we write to 200 or 300 over the asking. I mean, it's an automatic thing now. How crazy is that? So, I mean, there's no negotiating. There's negotiating up, but there's no negotiating down at all on any property. So,
right.
And then it goes to the point where, how much can you afford? What can you afford? I mean, because this one buyer it's not a contingency, but he's getting a loan. So how much can you afford for your down payment and all that? And the other guys that are cash, they're going in quick closes. The interesting thing is, though, there's a new thing that they're proposing the beginning of January that is it's a law that any developers that buy and flip within 3 years will have to pay another 25% in tax.
Wow.
Because they're trying to do is separate it so that the investor's not competing with the owner user buyer, because most of those buyers can't compete with them, right? So they're out of the market, and then they have to go lease, and therefore the lease prices are now doubled, right, because those people have nowhere to live, they have to lease. So it's just been like this chain reaction, but it's a really different time.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said earlier too about people used to think ahead of a studio or whatever, but and people always ask, they always want us to prognosticate as to what is going to happen.
Right.
I get interviewed about that a lot, and it's basically, people go, interest rates are going to go up, but that doesn't really even affect our market that we're dealing with. I mean, I'd say 9 out of 10 of my deals are cash. Now, they may ultimately get a loan. It won't be contingent on the loan, but maybe they want to write off or whatever. So it's just a weird phenomenon that's going on right now with all of these multiple offers. They're on super high end, because if you're buying something for 3, 4, 5, 10, you're going to have some heavy payments, or else how'd you get all your cash?
Hard money loans.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are going in, the developers are going in with their hard money loan, so they've got all cash.
Right.
And and then they'll play it out for a year. I mean, it's a whole different way, but it's competing with the family that needs a house with 2 or 3 kids.
Yeah, that's true.
They're competing, and they're beating them out in most cases.
Yeah, to me, it's like, well, first of all, the whole thing with this off-market stuff, I know you're on the same thing that I'm on, with supposedly the top agent networks get all these things. that are off market, or I'm looking for this, that, and the other. And I think we mentioned this before, and you may have actually like done deals from it. But to me, I'm like, my mailbox is flooded. I now filter it out into the junk file because there's too many of them. It's like another MLS for off market stuff. So I don't really understand what is the benefit. So I'm curious, what is the benefit that you've seen?
Well, I made a deal last week on off market.
Really? So
Yeah.
you got an email, or did you send something out saying I'm looking for so-and-so?
No, I just saw something that came up on in that network, and I called them, got my buyer in there first, like the first day, and we made a full price offer, of course, all cash, 20-day close, and we got it. So I mean, I was like, oh my God, look what you have to go through. But you know, everything is. I mean, I'd say probably 50% of the deals are pockets.
Yeah, wow, that's interesting.
Markets.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my deals are pockets as well, just because they're kind of unusual properties or whatever. And some sellers really only want you to do that. I always tell sellers, look, if you want to do that, let's do it for a little bit, see if I can reach out proactively, get somebody. But if not, hey, get it on the market. We don't want somebody buying something else that is actually on the market. It's almost like being on the market somehow has a stigma, like it's crap, which is ridiculous. The best deals.
You couldn't sell your house, so you had to put it on the market.
Yeah, exactly. It's like dumb, but it's like, and so then you have these competing things. You have this new top agent network. Okay, then you have that PLS, which is a private listing service, whatever, and then you've got the MLS. And so I just say, hey, if you're going to do that, stagger it. Go off market first, then do something else, and then eventually put it on the real market. The best deals, even the thing is, like, I just had one property sell at auction, okay, which was like insane what it sold
in this
for.
market. That's insane.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I could have got millions more. And I told the seller, do not do this. To do a no reserve auction. And I cited exact examples of previous clients of mine that wanted to do that. And I tried to talk them out of it. One person didn't do it. I had an $8.5 million offer for that person in Florida. It sold for 2.5 when they went for an auction. This person did the same thing, and he's not a stupid guy. And I said, do not do that. And he ended up selling it for millions less than I think it was probably worth. But it was like, it's weird. So yeah, why now when the market is pretty hot or pretty crazy hot?
Crazy hot.
To do that. And why do you think it's so insane now?
Well, I think it's always driven by inventory. So when the inventory loads up, people start to sell their houses for less, and so it starts to grow the inventory, and prices will come down. But the inventory is so bleak and so limited, there's not much to choose from. And everyone's got the fear of missing out, of course, and not getting something. Right. So they push themselves. But I was on an interesting call the other day, and they were saying, the people on the call were saying that many people, if they have to sell their house 5 years from now, 3 to 5 years from now, they will not get what they paid for it.
Yeah.
Because they push so far.
I believe it. Yeah, it seems like such an artificial, type of explosion of values. It's pretty insane.
You don't need comps anymore. Well, let me explain to you what you should pay for this and what range you don't need that anymore. Because you can't use them.
Yeah, it's true. And the thing is, here's the thing, if someone is actually getting a loan in a traditional market, it doesn't matter how much someone's willing to pay, okay? Because it's still going to be contingent on the property appraising and them getting their loan to value ratio. So whereas a cash buyer could pay whatever. And that situation seems to not be the same because prices are inflating so fast and they're so high with very quick sales that are very recent, so they're used as comps. But it is interesting. You don't know what's going to happen, down the road.
But there are no contingencies. You don't get a loan or appraisal anymore.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's like, so no one's getting those anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's kind of a bizarre market.
It is bizarre, honestly.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's pretty good. I don't know. Do you like it this way?
No, I hate it because
Yeah,
I think it
me
takes
too.
all the talent out of getting a deal for your clients. I really do. to me, I think you're going to see people flooding out of the business. Okay. I remember in the 80s when I first, I was a broker, like when I was like 19, but then in the 80s, I came to the West Side and I worked in a 100% office where you rent space. And because I was a broker already, you rent space. And there was a bunch of people there. When the market's good, and you got to pay a desk fee. Okay. I think it was $1,000 a month or something. The market's good. People like to do that because then they're getting their full commission. But then as soon as the market isn't great, they're not making money and they flood out to a conventional office. So I just, what I find
the market is great though. The market's great and they're still not making money right now because there's not enough houses to sell.
That's right. What's going to happen? It makes everybody a successful agent, assuming you want to be in this rat race. But the truth is, it doesn't require any skill. There's no negotiating involved, basically. And to me, that's the thing that is important in a regular market where things are real. And you have an opportunity as an agent who's skilled in negotiating, understanding the market, to negotiate a good price for your buyer. Or when you represent a seller, you're in a position where you can try and get top dollar by marketing effectively and, understanding how to negotiate. Now it's like, hey, bring me, it's just a race. So who wins? Whoever has the person that has no contingencies, and they're willing to pay anything.
Yeah.
It's good for a while, but that's not going to last.
Yeah, well, the inventory is what's going to make the inventory grow, because the interesting thing is that a lot of baby boomers refied all their houses. So if you have a quarter of the market and there are baby boomers and they refied their houses, their payments are so low for the next 10 years, they don't need to sell or to move.
That's right.
So that's kind of locked it up really tight in terms of that. So in 10 years from now, you'll see a big flood into the market because those baby boomers can't refi, they won't qualify to refi and they'll end up selling. So, you see all these things that kind of affect and reflect and, kind of control. You can see how they kind of set up the way the market is. And
well, yeah, the thing is too, it's like there's all, throughout our careers, there have been certain outside elements that have really affected the market when interest rates were 18%, various other things. But I always find that it's mostly driven psychologically, especially at the upper end. And when people, it's sort of, if you analyze it objectively, it's a mistake. When the market is super hot and prices are inflated, people are rushing out to buy. Then when it starts slowing down, they go, well, maybe I shouldn't buy. It's like that.
It should be the opposite.
Why not? Yeah, it's like, why buy when the market's super high and then you're stuck selling when it's low? So I just think people should be objective, but it is crazy. I cannot understand what's going on. It's just kind of nuts, Maybe it's just.
I understand it. I just have to dig in and be a part of it because you have no other choice.
Well, it is smart because now it really does make sense to look for off-market properties, because then you have a chance of avoiding, if you can jump in there fast like you did, which is smart. And when I have clients right now that are looking for things. Matter of fact, the guy that I said was swimming nude in the open house, I just called him the other day because I was showing something out in Malibu. And I called him. I said, hey, dude, what do you got that's, off market? I got this buyer. She's going anywhere from 10 to 30. And he goes, oh, I got a couple of things. And they really are not on the market. I mean, nobody's even going to hear about it. So that's an advantage, but that's why it is good if you truthfully have credibility as representing people with money, and you can call on people directly and go, hey, what do you got? I'm all old school about that. It's like, hey, I'll call and say, hey, Valerie, like, what do you have? I got this person. And I think that transcends the normal thing of sending out, blind emails or whatever.
Oh no, I sit on the phone literally every day for 2 or 3 hours, just calling agents, calling them all over in all the different markets I'm looking. And I usually I'll get 1 or 2 good things coming up.
Right.
Kind of thing. So, and same things people do to me. They'll call me or text me.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But you got to dig. You got to dig. You got to look. You got to dig. You got to ask.
Yeah. If you're just looking at the MLS, forget it. At this point, or Zillow or whatever. It's a totally, again, it's this unusual paradigm now. It's going to change, but right now, you got to operate with what we have.
It is what it is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Totally.
Well, Bob, I always love doing this with you. I love our podcasts.
Yeah, that's fun because we get to really talk about the real stuff.
Yeah.
whether
And I love the people that listen in and download us. And we've had, I don't know, 20,000 downloads, which has been really great from all over the world. And I think people are really interested as long as we keep our stories going and information flowing.
We get some good people, and again, the stories never end, and we can just delve into our own memories and come up with other things that have occurred. But it's great. People love it. I get hit up like all the time, asking about this, asking about that, and it helps just to basically tweak our memories so we pull things up. But yeah, our guests are great. The audience is great. We just keep rocking.
Keep rocking. So listeners, you've been amazing. Tune in every week to join us, to hear our stories and share some real estate laughs. And this is Real Estate Real Laughs, and we'll see you soon.
Sounds great. Valerie, take care. Have a great one. Audience, see you guys. Ciao.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Real Estate Real Laughs with Valerie Fitzgerald and Bob Hurwitz. Enjoyed the show? Then head on to ValerieFitzgerald.com and thehjc.com. This episode's show notes and more fun episodes. Join us again for real fun and a lot of laughs here on Real Estate Real Laughs.